This is Mark Zuckerberg, and this is Tech Addicts.
This week, Ted's been fiddling with his Stream Deck. There's a few knockoff Steam Decks. Is there a phone that can charge in 10 minutes? Ads on your lock screen? And is the end of the Exynos chip looming? Hello and welcome to the Tech Addicts Podcast. I'm your host Gareth, and this is Ted Fuck Salmon.
I was just telling Gareth, dear listeners, about the expletive that made it into the PSC last week, and Steve forgot to take it out, and it was just really funny. And I'm sure that some people won't think it's funny, but I think a lot of people did. So, editing error there.
Yes, and I apologise for having to do it, but I had to pay you such respect that, to slip it out there, I bet you had it all worked out exactly when you were going to do it.
Yeah. Anyway, how are you? We're back.
Not too bad, yes. We're back for one last show before we take a wee bit of a summer break. So there won't be a show next week and the following week. As I am so far away, I just don't want to have anything to do with the TechAddicts Podcast for 2 weeks. Have a wee bit of a breather and have a holiday.
How flattering for our listeners.
Yeah, well, it does take up a lot of time on a Sunday, and I'll be finished about... We started about, what, is it, at 10:30 in the morning, and then it's all kind of uploaded and done by maybe 2:30 in the afternoon, so it's a fair chunk of your day that this takes up, and I just
all the
fancy a wee
preparation.
Sunday morning to myself.
Yes.
And of course, yes, that all goes over to Ted, because he likes his Google Docs and keeping them up to date and throwing all the stuff in there so that I don't actually have to do any work.
You lazy git. Incidentally, it's like a flipping oven in North Wales at the moment, and it's going to get worse tomorrow, and I've got a fan going, so if you can hear that, dear listener, then I'm very sorry, but it's staying on, because I'm just too hot, and it's just horrible. Is it hot there as well?
It is kind of warm here, but I don't have any fans on. And if anyone has any problems with it, I wouldn't complain about it, because Ted will just throw a filthy tirade of swearing and abuse at you, as he does frequently on the phone show.
Anyway, apart from that, everything seems to be quite level here. Are you looking forward to your little break then? We won't be back till August. Can you believe that? Or will it be the last day of July? Anyway.
We should be able to squeak one more in. Yeah, the 31st, we'll get one in there, yeah.
Right. Are you looking forward to your break?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. Can't wait. Donegal and I can't remember the other places. We're going south of the border.
Yeah, that's that island place, isn't it?
Yes, and it should be exceptional weather,
and
that's a wonderful place to holiday.
Slinky Link, will you get free roaming there?
Well, I've already checked it out, and having my wife go down to the Eagles concert in Dublin 2 weeks ago, I contacted Vodafone about asking what to do, and they said, no, you'll need to buy the booster pack, which is £8. So I went on to their website quite recently, I think we were going to talk about it, was it last week, maybe? Or maybe we did talk about it last week. So much has happened since then. And I saw that it was now £6, but Ireland is included in all the normal stuff. So I have to take issue with that with Vodafone to say, why? Why did you tell me to buy this?
Yeah.
Ted, language please, this isn't the phone show.
Anyway, this was to do with the EU free roaming decade extension, and Pip Tomlinson, who I mentioned last week, who lives in Spain, he says, yes, I will continue to enjoy the benefits of this here in sunny Barcelona for the next 10 years. Though it's not so convenient when I pop back to England to see the family. Also, he says, a tip, if you do come to Spain and buy a prepaid SIM with 12 gigabytes of data here in Spain for €10, don't do it at the airport, because you will be charged €30. They'll rip you off instead of the €10 SIM. There are hundreds of little stores in Barcelona and other cities where you can nip in and pick one up for the proper price it should be, for €10. That's terrible. The airport are just ripping people off. He says the only thing you've got to do is show your passport to buy one, apparently. So, I fancy that. What is it, 200% markup at the airport?
Yeah, it is. It's crazy. Having worked on cruise ships, I did visit various ports of call around the world, and you got to know where was the best place to be able to buy calling cards and things. Data wasn't a big thing then. You could get some for your WAP that was rolling out in the time that I was doing it. But I totally forgotten about calling cards up until now, and how you'd buy them and use them, and if you were going back to your country, you'd have to put one safely somewhere if you hadn't used it all. And I had a bunch of them for America and things like that. Every time I went to America, you don't buy them when you're going to America, you buy them in America because they're so much cheaper.
Right.
And I had a little collection of them from all around the world, Asia calling cards and that sort of thing, and all the different countries that I visited. And I don't know where they are now. Maybe I must have thrown them all out, possibly. But yeah.
Right.
Top tip there, buy them
Yeah.
when you're there, not before you go.
Yeah, not in the airport, according to Pip, anyway. I've been having real fun this week. You remember I was thinking about buying a Stream Deck XL, because I've already got a Stream Deck. And then I thought to myself, hang on a minute, if I buy a Stream Deck XL, even at the bargain price it was last week, which it isn't now, incidentally, of £179, it's gone back up again. I've still got one here, which I'll have to sell or do something with. Anyway, I started investigating the interesting use of having two, and so because the original generation one is cheaper because they brought out the Mark II one, I got a second one. And I thought, I did lots of research on about how they interact with each other and how they work. And it's all really, really clever. You basically just plug in the second one, and you can either use it independently of the other one, or you can just use the profiles to switch and match them between. So instead of getting 32 buttons on the XL version, I've ended up with 30 buttons, which is not far off, but you can just use them. However, it's so creative. The software that they provide from Stream Deck, Elgato, it's so creative about how you can move stuff around between the two and the buttons. And there's also a pedal which might be arriving because Aidan Bell is trying to source one for me. And it's just really, really smart, the way in which you can make it all work for you. And it's tons of fun. Nothing you can't do with a mouse and a keyboard on a computer, but I just love it. And this Stream Deck, for me, has transformed the way I interact with my computer. There.
Terrific. Yeah. So do you have them either side of your desk or something, or do you have them beside each other?
Beside each other, in the middle of the screen. And I tend to have the left one showing system resources, for example, like hard drives and clock and speed of internet and screen on time, processor speed and load, rather, the on-off buttons. So all the system stuff on one side, and then on the other side I've got drilled down into my various folders and short links to other stuff. But you can press one on the left to invoke something on the right by the smart use of profiles. It's a really interesting hobby to get into. It's quite hard to describe probably until someone actually starts using one. I think you should get one.
Well, I'm quite interested in it, but I'm wondering where your button shows your hard disk size or whatever.
Yeah. What
happens when you press that?
When you press for each drive.
Well, yeah, just for the system resources or something like that, where you've got a monitor going on. If you press it, what comes up?
It depends on what the button is. So with the drives one, it gives you a breakdown, a visual breakdown. For example, my C drive, I can see, it's got a bar on it, 55% free, it says, 130 gigabytes used. And the D drive is nearly full. It's
but
8%.
Then if you press that C, does it open it up in File Explorer or something? Or
no. I don't think so. Hang on a minute. Oh no, I've got an error in that. It's not. When I press that button, I'm getting a triangle which suggests something's wrong in the setup. But if I press the one that tells me how much percentage of my system RAM is being used, that one comes up on the screen in Task Manager. So that one then tells you, it links you through to that. I've got a GMT one as well. The speed of internet one, if you press that, it runs, it pings the server, and then you get a readout on the button of what's what. So yeah, I mean, I'm still kind of sorting it out and messing about with it, and that drives one. I think they are supposed to do something when you press them, but at the moment they're giving me yellow triangles, which means something's wrong. I need to drill into that and fix it.
What would you want to happen with that hard drive? Can you set it up so that you would open the file explorer of the C drive if you want?
I suppose you could do that. I'm sure that you can probably get it to do lots of things. But the way that, to be honest, I hadn't thought about it up to now. All I like to see when I press that button is an array of 5 buttons, which gives me an overview of my 5 main drives and how much is used on each. That's it, and the percentage of what I've got free, and the ones that have not been signed in yet that are locked in BitLocker. So that all works really well. So yeah, but you can do what you like with it. You can, and the community, the Stream Deck community is amazing. They just go, you can drill down into the various forums online, and people are just tinkering and giving you code and telling you how to do this and that. And I had one thing I wanted to do, and I just asked them, and they came back with the answer straight away. And all it was a button to power the computer off. That's all I wanted to do, and I couldn't find it anywhere. And someone gave me the code to put it in, and it worked. Great. So it's all good fun, and it takes you a bit back to like shareware days, and people just being in there for the love of it and loving what they do. And it's a great community.
Yeah. I'm just having a quick look. It still does have some money off it at the moment. It should be £229, but it's £219
okay, yeah.
For that 32 macro key.
It's version. Not the 179 it was last week, though.
No.
But yeah, if I didn't have one already, I would have got the XL. So if I was in your position, I'd get the XL. But having the two next to each other, it doesn't. The point is that it doesn't. I'm not losing out anything because they work so well together. The only thing I'm losing out on is the 2 extra buttons, I suppose.
Right. Yeah, it looks pretty cool.
It's great fun. You'd love it.
Something else to have on your desk. That's
yeah.
the one off-putting thing where you want to have minimalism, but maybe. And it's not that this would take away the functionality of some of the other things that you have on the desk. Maybe you've got a USB hub or a micro or an SD card reader or hard drives or something. You're still going to have those there. So this is another thing that you need to have on your desk.
It's a toy, really. It's an information toy. It's a launcher. It's shortcuts. It's running macros. It's setting things up to say, right, when I first turn on my computer, I've got a button on one of them that is my Chrome launcher, and I press that button and it opens up my 3 tabs that I want Chrome to open in. Now, you can easily argue that Chrome will do that for you anyway. You just need to set the startup pages, but I've got a button that does it.
But sometimes you don't always want it to open all of those because it can slow down resources. I generally have Feedly, Mail and Reddit kind of pinned to mine. Mm-hmm. And I do think that slows things down because they're always there in the background, gobbling up a bit of RAM. Yep.
And so I have got other buttons. I've got a page that says Google, and in there I can independently launch Gmail or InnoReader or the stuff that I have opening up automatically. So you're quite right. You can do it individually as well. The world is your oyster with this stuff. Really, you'd have so much fun with it. But you've got to use it, and otherwise it would just sit there doing nothing. And you'll suddenly think, oh, I'm using my mouse to do that. I could have used a button.
True, very true. Yeah, it takes you to be in the ecosystem to be able to appreciate just how much it is. Right now, it's probably people going, "Oh, it's a luxury we don't need," but then you rely on it, and if it was to ever break, you'll then be totally sucked in.
When I go and use my laptop, which I did last night, I thought, oh, bugger. I've got to do this the old way. I've got to find where things are. Launching programs without a button, really?
I suppose that's the same thing whenever it comes to you and I with our mice. You've only just moved over to your MX Master mouse, or whatever it's called again. Whereas before you were using the simple 2-button mouse from Amazon, but now you've got extra buttons on there.
Yeah.
And I had to try to argue, no, you need those. They're great. But I can never go back to using a 2-button mouse. Like whenever I'm in work, I'm going, I want to hit back. I have to go and scroll the mouse across and hit the back button up in the corner. Yeah. Nightmare.
First world problems.
Yeah. I can't quite remember how we got onto it. I think there was a query in MeWe. But Mike Robbins has written in about how to turn off, or how to stop Windows from turning off the power to your USB devices.
This is to do with the same mouse you've just been talking about, because we were complaining because it kept juttering and jittering, didn't we?
Yes, and I have done this before. It's one of the things that I tried when I was trying to troubleshoot it ages ago, and then I eventually just gave up because I've tried pretty much everything. So he says in the recent Tech Addicts podcast, I did read this earlier on this morning, on the 26th of June, there was a discussion about the Logitech MX Master 3 mouse, which we were just discussing, which would lose connectivity or connection intermittently. I thought it would be worth reposting this reminder that often USB ports are powered down by Windows to save power. This behaviour can be turned off. So if anyone has a USB device that seems to go to sleep, it's worth checking that the USB ports / USB hub are set to keep powered on at all times. Thank you, Mike. That is a great solution. It doesn't actually affect this at all. I have hard drives and things like that are plugged in via USB, so I had those turned to stay on all the time a long time ago, and it's one of the things every time I reinstall Windows I'm sure to do. But it doesn't cut down on the jiggly lag that can sometimes show up. And I really do think that USBs can sometimes have a mind of their own, and the best way around this, I found, is just to swap the USB port of the USB dongle, and that kind of sorts it out pretty quick. But it always just feels like there's something running in the background, like you're playing a game, and you're playing a game whilst you're encoding a film or something, and your system's just going and struggling, old-fashioned style struggling, and that's what this is. But there's nothing running. You can go in and have a look at all your resources, and everything's sitting down at 0%, but it's still doing it.
Yeah. To be honest, since this happened last week, since we spoke about this last week, I changed my USB dongle thingy just to be physically nearer where the mouse and keyboard are, and it's not happened once since. No jitter or halt anywhere along the way. So there are lots of things. I was reading also this week that someone was saying that it does it when it's plugged into a hub, but if you plug it properly into the port in the computer, it doesn't do it. There's so many theories flying around. And then someone popped up in the group and said, why don't you just use Bluetooth instead, for goodness sake? Oh, right, okay. Well, I've always gone for the unifying receiver thingy because I thought that it was more solid. But, perhaps it's no more reliable than Bluetooth would be.
A lot of desktops don't tend to have Bluetooth either. Mine doesn't.
Right, okay.
So I rely on the unifying. And I've flipped between the back of the computer, which does have a desk in the way that I always thought could be interrupting the signal, and moved it back over to the USB hub, which is about 15 inches away from the mouse, and it gets it no matter where I put it. And if I flip between them, it continues to do it. So I've just found that moving it 1 centimeter to the left after a couple of weeks prevents it, and then moving it 1 centimeter to the right again in the USB hub prevents it. So it's got to be ghosts. There might be ghosts floating in between the frequency that's going back and forth between the two. If you get two ghosts at the same time, it gets worse. Clearly. So we have to blame Hitler.
Absolutely.
It's his ghost. Okay, well, that's all that sorted out, thankfully. And we'll just move into the hard line for the hardware, where there is news aplenty. we have the idea of what the Chromecast audio successor might have been, Ted.
Oh, yeah.
Over on 9 to 5 Google, they've identified Chromecast audio is something that really didn't take off.
Yeah, they're talking about the fact that they've suspected from various code in various whatever that there might be a new one coming. And I was trying to remember what these were good for, and I had one of these, and there were two things that it was good for. One was one that affects me, and one doesn't. The one that doesn't affect me particularly personally is high quality audio, and with Bluetooth coming along, that is, that's up there anyway. Bluetooth is so good these days. You think, well, why are Google going to do another one just for that? But the second one, which is also going away to some degree, is that you can plug it into any 3.5mm socket. So any speaker that's not Bluetooth enabled, any hi-fi system, any TV, anything at all, you could plug this thing into, and then you could send your audio to it. And that, at the time, was more useful. But again, that's changing because so many devices have got Bluetooth built in. You can just send what you like to them, can't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You said you had one.
Wake up.
What did you use it for?
I had one. I used it for exactly what I just described, which was that at the time I had speakers which were not Bluetooth speakers, and I wanted to use them and send audio from my phone, and you plug it in the back of the 3.5 in the speaker, and you can just use it and send music to it. But as I say, I'm not sure if this is a thing or not. It's a suspected thing that 9 to 5 Google have picked up on, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's not true because of the enhancements and forward evolution of Bluetooth and how good it is.
Yeah. I had one from D-Link that did the same thing, but it was massive. It was this huge. It was about the same size as a pack of cigarettes.
Right.
And even wider, in fact. And it would achieve the same thing, but I don't think the audio quality was anywhere near as good.
Right.
And that kind of put me off the whole idea of, these kind of dedicated audio streamers.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, it'd be interesting to see it come back. I did use mine, but I just wonder if I would use it as much now if I had one.
I don't think so. I think Bluetooth's just too good.
Yeah. I think you're right.
Aye. GameSir is something that I keep meaning to pick up. Every time I go to pick it up to see if it started working again, I get waylaid. It's sitting beside my armchair, and there's so much more else to do in the living room than actually use your GameSir. GameSir is a wee attachment that goes around your phone and turns it into essentially a Nintendo Switch type device. It's a gaming control panels for either side of your phone. The GameSir X3, the USB Type-C phone gaming controller, has launched for $99, which is slightly more than it usually is. I vaguely remember there were about 50 quid, I think, when I first got one. And I have the 2, I think. But then they did the 2 Bluetooth, and now they're doing the X3 USB Type-C, which has a few additions to it. There's a fan on the back to be able to cool down your device, which is something that I think is usually pretty much needed and would be useful in these kind of climate conditions that we're experiencing right now. Because every now and again you go out to your car or something where you've left your phone and it doesn't work because it's too damn hot. Ted, are you going to pick up one of these?
I like the idea of it, and I like to think that I would do it. But when I have one, and I have had one or two in the past, I just don't tend to use them. But what I need to do really is to get into Android gaming and take gaming seriously on an Android phone. And then, if I have one of these, I probably would more likely use it. In the meantime, we're talking about having Evercades and having Nintendo Switch Lites and other solutions, which were one or two of which we're coming to later in the show, I think. Yeah. And you're quite right. It's there on the coffee table, but you don't pick it up because you've got other stuff to do.
Yeah. I was doing my best with a couple of devices recently to see if I could find some interesting Android games that I could play. Mm-hmm. I'm going through the Play Pass section of Google Play.
Yeah.
And there was just nothing that really stood out other than games that I was quite familiar with in years gone by that I've mentioned a few times on the show in the past that I do tend to play. There wasn't really anything that I would rave about, and I just see it as it's a crap excuse for a gaming platform, unless you're really into the Call of Duty and the PUBG and Fortnite. Outside of that,
perhaps we should have a new section for the show that says Android Game of the Week. And try hard. Try hard to find something every show.
Well, I think it's one of the websites. Is it Droid Gamers or something, or maybe Android Authority? Try to, on either a weekly or a monthly basis, publish a list of 5 games that you should play today. Right. And I look at that quite frequently, and I just go, I wouldn't touch that. No, I wouldn't touch that. No way. That looks like it's full of ads. No, I'm not buying gems for that. No way. Yeah. It takes away the novelty, the desire to do mobile gaming, and I think really helps elevate the likes of the Nintendo Switch, where you're buying a game and you're going to be able to play it and enjoy it.
Yeah. I think it will change, though. They're clearly investing in this. Google want this to be part of the infrastructure of where they're going with their stuff, and I think it will happen eventually. It's just going to take some time, and it might take some partnerships as well. It might take people getting on board with each other and sharing stuff, and I think that probably 5 years down the line we'll be having a different conversation about this. Yeah.
Well, I'm just having a quick look at that GameSir X3 USB Type-C controller, and it says that it has a 4,000mm square cooling area, and the phone cooler can allow you up to 12 degrees C drop in the CPU temperature, with a 24 degrees drop in surface temperature with the wired connection. Which is that's
halving the heat.
Yeah.
Well, it's it's Razer that are kind of mostly up on this, aren't they? With that thingy we spoke about, their version of this, which in fact is about 50 quid. I think they seem to be big on the fan thing, don't they?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll see how this goes. Hopefully, Google does have some good plans to give people a quality gaming experience as opposed to just a money-grabbing gaming experience. Yeah. Because they're certainly going to go for the money-grabbing side of things whenever it comes to your Android phone's lock screen. Ted, do you want to tell people about this? Because I think people are already annoyed enough about me saying "fuck" earlier in this.
Right, this, just to be clear, what we're about to say is to do with cellular locked phones in America, not anywhere else. But it could be the start of things to come. So, do you know when you've got a Kindle device and you don't give them their tenner to take away the splash screen adverts? Then every time you look at your Kindle, there is, before you fire it up, there is an advert. And I think there's one at the bottom of the screen as well, whenever you're using it. And what this article is about is the fact that Google it is suggested by Fandroid that Google are working on putting this on phones, presumably in partnership with these cellular companies in America, at least initially. And yeah, what that means basically is that when your phone is sitting on the arm of the sofa and you look at it, it's got an advert, and they're pushing adverts all the time on always on displays. That's how, as I understand it, and that's just horrible, isn't it? And presumably, well, I don't know. I say presumably, maybe there's some way, like with a Kindle, to pay to not have that, but that's just horrible.
Yeah, and I wonder if the way forward here is from Google TV, because they've done that with Google TV, where they show you an ad for kind of related content to why you're using Google TV. It's not just, there's not Viagra or something like that up there. It is more like, why not watch this on Disney Plus, or why not watch this on Amazon Prime? There was a bit of a backlash about that, and they just ignored it. Amazon, I think, are doing the same thing, and Is it Apple? I can't remember. But at least Google and Amazon are both doing a similar thing, and you start to realize just how much of your screen now is being handed over to essentially an advert. It's a relevant advert, but it's an advert nonetheless, and you're losing screen real estate to an ad. And because they've just stuck with it, I think that the quarrel, the annoyance has died down a bit. So they've gone, right, okay, well, that's how long we can expect people to be annoyed about this sort of thing before they go, well, that's the norm. So whenever it comes to this, they'll just be able to just push it out and go, well, we'll stick our fingers in our ears for a couple of years and just deal with it. You're getting the software on your phone for free, despite the fact you're paying over the odds for the actual device.
Yeah. I just hope that there's some way of giving them a fiver and taking it away.
Then that's an extra $5 that you shouldn't have to pay because you already own the hardware. How many phones did you buy back in the 1990s and 2000s off the shelf that didn't have adverts on them but performed the functions that you wanted the phone for? Instead, you're paying money for this fully featured phone with a lot of functions that you probably aren't actually going to use, but you want the camera, you want the phone, you want the screen, and you want the speakers. Anything else that comes after that is a novelty that you may not actually use. Things like, say, GPS. Not everybody uses GPS. But you're still paying for it because you want the phone for those principal features. If they're going to try and subsidize the cost of the phone by sticking an ad on it just to gain extra money, then that's basic thievery.
Disgrace.
Yeah.
See how long it takes to roll out. But so far, very sad for the American cousins.
Absolutely. And I would recommend that would be pitchforks at dawn. Wait, does that work? Pitchforks at dawn? At twilight or whatever. Pitchforks on the lawn going bah humbug down with these sorts of things.
Yeah, you cads.
Yes. Okay. Right. So, hackers have been offered. Hackers have offered data on 1 billion Chinese people after this alleged leak that has come out. The Shanghai police database has been leaked or hacked, or however you want to look at it. What exactly is happening there, Ted?
Well, I think just exactly what you said, really, is that there's been this, huge leak of data by some guy called China Dan, who has broken into the police database, nicked a load of data from 1 billion Chinese residents, and then is offering to sell it to the highest bidder, 24 terabytes of data to the highest bidder. And it's also tied up with Bitcoin and they're talking about figures in the region of $200,000 American dollars that they're presumably they're being held ransom to. I mean, we've seen this before with other companies in the past few months that have been held to ransom. Some have given in, some haven't. Fujifilm was a good example of one that didn't give in. They told them to shove it, and they changed all their infrastructure to offset it, and then apologised to everyone that was affected, and blah blah blah. It's difficult to know what to do about this, but you kind of think that in China they would be on top of this and they wouldn't allow this to happen, or they'd kind of chop your fingers off or lob your head off. You'd think that the incentive in China or places with a more hardline regime would be enough to stop people trying to do this. But then China Dan probably lives in New York somewhere, doesn't he? So I don't know. It's very difficult.
Yeah, it's worrying. But then, getting 1 billion people's information, is that really going to be of much use? For them for your bank details to have been compromised. The chances of them picking out your bank details out of the 1 billion people's details that are there are 1 in a billion.
Yeah, and you could argue that the police wouldn't have your bank details in this particular instance, but they might have information about your crime record, or the information about that the police hold on the citizens, particularly in places like China, which might be compromising for the regime to leak out there. And it also might be information about that is used to blackmail people who don't want people they know to be knowing about criminal records and stuff like that. But it could be as simple as selling out email addresses to, for all we know, in China, the police have got the right to force everyone to give them an email address or a mobile phone number. And it could be as simple as that. 24 terabytes of data being sold to firms that want to push adverts out to email addresses or to bug people on mobile phones. It's not very clear what it's about, really, but it's just a bit of a worry that this is going on.
Yeah, I suppose whenever you talk about what they might have, you start to think that China tends to really watch their subjects that they have. So there could be facial information and things here as well. There could be photographs so that people know exactly who other people are. And 24 terabytes isn't just like a spreadsheet with a billion people's email addresses on it. There's more in there than just that. Well, yes, it's a deeply scary situation, but we'll keep an eye on this and see what happens. And if anyone tries to offer you a very large hard drive with 24 terabytes of stuff on it for a tenner down the pub, be wary of what might be on there. The HTC A101 is a new tablet coming from HTC. The more I think about it, I think they've done 3 tablets now, haven't they? They did the Flyer, the Jetstream, was it?
The Flyer.
And now this.
I like the Flyer. Forgotten about that. That had a cellular. Yeah. It had a SIM card in it, didn't it?
It did, but it had a really weedy processor. It came with a single core processor when the world was just moving into dual core. I think it was a 1.5 gigahertz single core processor, so it was underpowered compared to the competition. And I don't think we got the Jetstream here.
I don't remember the Jetstream at all. This one looks suspiciously like the Nokia T20. It's even got the same chipset and the same screen, and it's also looks like it's being released initially just in Russia. I'm not quite sure what that's about, but
if you look carefully at the back, you can see Nokia stroked out and HTC written in paint beside it.
Don't you think, though, that the whole spec thing looks like it's a Nokia with a different badge on it?
It does, yeah.
But yeah, the interesting bit, I suppose, is releasing it in Russia, and they said that it's heading for South Africa after that. A bit of an odd rollout, that is.
It is, but it's something that you could say that's not going to sell terribly well in the Western markets, and it's not the kind of re-debut that HTC probably want over there. So, if they just generate some income and that kind of thing and get their production line back up to speed, then they can put together a slightly higher spec'd tablet for a more for a decently placed Western release. But yes, selling to Russia, obviously with sanctions that are currently in place, might
be a bit tricky.
aggravate certain world communities.
Slinkily linking to the next item, which is your video review of the Lenovo P11 Plus, I did notice that, like the HTC and like the Nokia T20, we spoke about this last week, this does have that entertainment centre to the left on it as well. Because do you remember I was saying to you that is now downloadable in the App Store? And it looks like various OEMs are choosing to include that in, the core, because you can't take it off of the Nokia, and presumably you can't take it off of the the Lenovo P11 either. It's there, and that's what you get on the left. Do you think that's true?
I haven't tried to remove it. I actually quite like it. Although I tend to need to remind myself to use it more than I would say than I would just go for the shortcut to Netflix and things like that. I have to go, I'll go and see what it's recommending me today, as opposed to I'm going to watch something, open that.
Yeah.
But I will say that But I don't know why I lasted with Samsung tablets so long, because this thing is doing everything I want a tablet to do for a fraction of the price. And I know that when in bargain basement, and there are some naysayers that say the Xiaomi option is much, much better. Obviously, there's a few attractions here, like the SD card, which is something that I've gone into on the video, is the big attraction here over the Xiaomi, because the Xiaomi, to find the 256 version is hard work, and 128 is good, but it's not enough. I'm really pleased with it, and for £209, it's an absolute bargain for 6 gigabytes of RAM version.
It is. You're right. Yeah. It's good, but don't expect it to be updated. This is the worry ongoingly with the Lenovo. Although I don't think there's no formal commitment, but I think they are trying to get better with updates, and at least expect one major Android update from it, if nothing else, and quarterly security and something else. I told you before about the story of my last Lenovo tablet, which was just as soon as you got it out the box, it never once, not a single update of anything, just out of the box, that was it, end of story.
Well, it is something that I completely forgot to put in the video, that I realised after I'd launched it, that I got 3 updates. And they took forever. I saw Steve giving off about the Pixel updates for a very small security update. It takes, 45 minutes to do that?
Half, I think it was.
Yeah, something along those lines. The Lenovo was the same, and it was the day that I got it. I think I ended the first part of that.
Oh yeah, you did.
That review. Going, I'm going to go and do these updates, but I forgot to say that there was 3 in total, and the last one was really small, but it took the longest of the bunch. Right. I was just frustrating, and I sat there, I was working at the time, just looking at it every now and again, going, has it hung? What's going on? And then it would restart, and I'm like, oh, right, there we go. But what it does is, they have their own dedicated updating client, which would make you think that they were, invested in updating a platform if they're going to go and update or have a specific method of delivery as opposed to just using Google's typical method. It doesn't show you that it's optimizing the apps, as we've all grown accustomed to seeing when we're updating an Android device. It does all that behind the scenes. It's just like, we're applying the update. It's happening here, and there's a wee bar that goes all the way along, and then it sits at 100% for the longest period of time.
And spookily enough, Motorola's do that as well. They don't tell you what it's doing much, and in the same way as a Pixel does. It's a.
But the most infuriating thing is that this is next to naked. There isn't really much in here that is that's worthy of having its own delivery method of an update. So they could just keep it as stock and roll out the stock updates as they come along. It would be minimal work for them. Instead, it just seems to be that they are doing this because they want to sell you a new version of the tablet in a couple of years' time. And when making the decision to pick up one of these, I was having a look to see if there was a P12 Plus promised or planned at all, and there's nothing. No. So if they were to suddenly turn around and go, right, we've done the sale now, so we can now populate the shelves, the empty shelves where the Lenovo's used to sit, with a P12 Plus, it's not really going to get much of a fanfare when it eventually arrives. It's just going to eke out.
And these companies baking in this entertainment centre into the ROM is just going to put the responsibility for updating that in the hands of the OEM. So if they allowed people to install that themselves as an app and an alternative to the Google feed on the left, then it would be updated ongoingly by Google as an app. But no, the OEM's going to be in charge of that, like they are with security updates, and allowing them through. So they've kind of done that entertainment thingy wrong, I think. And it's like with the Nokia, that just slows down the whole process.
Yeah. But I do like, it's reinvigorated my love for Android tablets. And the ones that we've had over the years and things like that, and that'll be reflected later on in the show. But Android tablets are just, they're a strange beast. They really are. It's hard to find one that's just perfect. Apple users are so happy in their own ecosystem because they can go out and get exactly what they expect, whereas an Android user has to go, right, well, I'm gonna have to go without this particular feature in order to be able to get that for this price.
Yeah.
And that's a weird thing. There isn't. I suppose Samsung are the only ones that do the kind of the fully fledged all rounder, but you have to pay through the nose for it, and then it comes with a really heavy overlay, and more features than you could really ever want, and just to confuse you.
Yeah, and then charge you 3 times the price, like you said in your review.
Yes. All right, so Ted, how do you pronounce IQOO?
You say it ICOO, IQ,
Oh.
as in I make the noise of a dove. The dove from above. Remember that?
So it's a bit like a political coup, like we saw last week.
Oh, right,
maybe?
yeah, good point. Anyway,
IQ,
this is the arrival of 200-watt charging. We talked about the 240-watt charging, which someone was alluding to last week, but nothing actually firm. This is IQ, which is part of the BK What's-It group, Oppo and all the rest of it. At least I think it is, isn't it? Yeah. And
I think so,
they're actually putting their stamp on the table and saying, right, this is it, it's coming. The IQ 10 Pro will have 200-watt charging. Amazing, isn't it?
Wow.
Charge your phone in 10 seconds.
That is astonishing. That people pay for that. That's what they want.
I still have problems with my Nokia XR20 on Qi chargers. It's so slow. I don't know why it is about the phone. It's just really, really slow. And to some degree, you think, if you had a 200-watt charging situation, it'd be so much simpler. And I do understand how people are moving away from Qi charging in preference to this super-duper fast charging. But it's, as we said before, we're not sure about the health of the battery.
Yeah, true. I will say this IQ 10 looks class. It has the BMW Motorsport colours on the back. Although I would argue to say that they do look like they're actually a wee bit wrong.
They look like
or incorrect.
They look like more like the Italian job to me.
Well, the Motorsport, if you have a look at the IQ 10, where you've got the black phone and then the white phone, then down in the bottom corner you've got the BMW Motorsport M series premium partner. The M has the BMW Motorsport colours beside it, which is light blue, slightly darker blue, red, and then the white M, or the slightly off-white M. Then you look at the back of the phone, which is all white, and then it's got red, black, and blue. So they're not the Motorsport colours, which is peculiar. And I looked at this phone before actually seeing that it was partnered with BMW, and I just thought, that looks like a really cool phone with such a 1980s vibe to it, or maybe even less than that, maybe 70s or 60s, kind of European vibe to it. I love the look of that phone on the back there. That's just a really cool design. Then further on down, you've got the IQ 10 leak render with the 3 cameras, and then they've got the red, black, and blue stripe across the top, which divides the top black and the bottom white under the camera array, going horizontally across the phone. That looks all right. It's okay. I'm okay with that, but I'm totally sold with the vertical stripe down there. And the fact that I didn't recognise it as BMW first and foremost, I thought that was just a cool array of colours that they'd picked to make a dazzling, exciting back of the phone. Yeah.
It just, for some reason, it just reminds me of the Italian job. I can't quite work out why.
Yeah.
But anyway,
well, they had the red, white, and blue. The black's the one that's the problem there.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. Anyway, what I was going to say was that when you can compare this with the IQ 9 from last year, they've done a much better job with the camera lump as well. It's just much more nicely designed than the horrible blocky thing that it was last time. I'm still never seen an IQ device in the West, as I haven't a Vivo device either, and presumably at some point we'll get some sort of world rollout, of these devices and actually be able to see them and even buy one.
Yeah. I was down in Saintfield on Monday, which is a small town outside of Belfast and Lisburn, and they had a Vivo.
Did they?
There, where you could buy your groceries.
Oh. It's a grocery shop.
Yeah, it's a bit like a Centra. But...
right. Well, see if they've got an IQ store anywhere.
Well, yes. So Nokia has won a dispute. I didn't read.
Oh right,
to
okay.
be honest, I figured this was entirely real. Just as a nice building.
This is all yet another patent dispute, and apparently Nokia, who have been big on developing 5G and for connectivity stuff for broadband and cellular connectivity and masts and things, they reckon that Oppo and OnePlus and the aforementioned kind of joint group of companies have nicked their patents and used them in their own products. So much so that Nokia took them to court in Germany, and they won their case, and they got loads of kind of damages to be paid and all the rest of it. But the biggest thing for Oppo and OnePlus is that they've been banned from selling anything. So that in Germany, apparently, you cannot buy an Oppo. They've been just removed from the shelves. You can't buy them. Not only all the infrastructure stuff for 5G and 4G and whatever, but also just anything they sell, which presumably goes down to phones and headphones, and in OnePlus's case, buds and all sorts of stuff that OnePlus have pushed out. And so, yeah, if you live in Germany, I'm sure that they'll get a resolution on that. They'll pay their fine or whatever to Nokia, and then it'll be all back and sweetness and light again. But interesting in the meantime.
It is, yeah. And if you read on, it says that last year luxury car manufacturer Daimler settled a high-profile patent litigation with Nokia, as did Lenovo. Wow.
Yeah. Nokia have got clause in everywhere, aren't they? Or HMD or whatever, whoever it is. I'm not quite sure about the difference, to be honest. But I presumably Nokia. No, I don't know. I won't mention that. I won't.
It just must be a bit of a pain for Nokia standing there going, "Why is everybody using us and no one's actually paying us?"
They've had patents though for so long. That's the point. If you track the Nokia company back, it goes back such a long way, and they've gone right back to the. I was looking at the history of Nokia, and they started off making ropes or something about 100 years ago, and ever since then they've just been building up, and that's what a lot of their research and development was about. Latterly, was putting these patents in place so that they can make money now if all else fails, I suppose.
Yeah. There's an interesting comment attached to the article as well, where someone says, "Ban Oppo so Nokia can sell their crappy phones here too." Okay, yeah, that is a point. I have to say that Oppo are genuinely putting out much more attractive and exciting phones than Nokia currently. I know some people may disagree with that, but I do think that some of Oppo's recent output has been of such high quality that this isn't going to do much good other than Nokia being able to scrape in a few quid.
Yeah,
euro.
That is very subjective, because there are lots of things that I prefer about a Nokia over an Oppo. But I take the point, and certainly the Oppo brand is not doing what Nokia are doing, which is down at the low end and pushing out lots of really cheap devices. They're also doing some top high-end stuff. But anyway.
Oh yeah, no, don't get me wrong. Oppo should have absolutely paid for what they used. I feel sorry for the poor Germans, because they will be missing the Oppos on the shelves.
Yes, indeed. I'm sure they'll find a way around it with about 2 million other OEMs.
True. All right, the Galaxy S23 is possibly going to be ditching the Samsung-made Exynos chips and going with the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 worldwide when it arrives. Ooh. When would it arrive? That would be the start of next year, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's usually March kind of time they come. Oh, no, Valentine's Day, they would announce them, and then they would start shipping around March and April.
This is probably a good idea, I think, to ditch this Exynos thing, which it just causes confusion, and people don't know what they've got, and they don't know what they're supposed to do, and then they start complaining about, the Exynos not performing as well as the Snapdragon, blah, blah, blah. Presumably the Exynos has been evolved out of Samsung just trying to make more money by making their own stuff, historically.
Not really. Yeah? Sometimes there was, I think there was a bunch of Qualcomm Snapdragons that couldn't do 5G, was it? So Samsung had to develop their own Exynos to be able to do 5G.
Oh, okay.
Wasn't that was kind of the kickoff of 5G here? There was some Samsung phones that couldn't do it because of the chipset that was based on. And there was chip shortages as well. So they're able to put the Snapdragon chips into where they knew they would sell better. And the Exynos, I had an Exynos in my S10 Plus, and of course people will go, oh, well, it's nowhere near as fast.
No, I agree with you, yeah. But there are things like, for example, on one of the Galaxies, the Snapdragon one had a better audio setup, so you could expect 32-bit audio or something, whereas the Exynos one was a much lesser. Anyway, I mean, I think that there were hardware differences and people were nitpicking. I agree to some degree, and I've got an S10 here with an Exynos chip in it, and I've got no complaints at all. I think it's a fabulous phone, performs beautifully. But what I'm talking about is just saving all the confusion, really, and the nitpicking between people. Just make it all one.
Yes. The query would be, is the tensor chip on the Pixel based around the Exynos? I think it is, isn't it?
Well, it certainly is based out of the Samsung stable. How closely akin it is to the Exynos, I don't know. And I don't think that information is particularly widely out there, is it?
No, it's not. We'll have to wait until next year to see what exactly is going on.
Well, the Tensor 2 is talking about for the 7, which is going to be arriving in, when is it? October? No, October, isn't it? For the
I was going to say 27.
The Pixel 7. The 6A, I don't think that's going to have it, but the 7 will have the Tensor 2. Anyway, we'll see when it arrives.
Yes. And we'll report back to you then. But right now we're going to report about the Blackview Tab 7, which is launching, which is confusingly, not a 7-inch tablet. It is actually a 10.1-inch tablet.
Where's the 7 come from, then?
I don't know. Maybe just because this is the 7th one or something, or the 7th go-around, possibly. It has an HD display of 1280 by 800. It's got a Unisoc T310 processor, which sounds familiar. And it's got a 3GB RAM set up in there with 32 gigabytes of storage. One can only imagine this is going to be a rather cheap tablet, but it's another tablet to give you an option out there. It's got Wi-Fi 5, stereo speakers, and a USB 2.0 port, and it runs Android 11. It's hardly anything to write home about, but it's just another option for a cheap 10.1-inch tablet that you could watch things on.
And never connect it to the Chinese military. When I saw your Blackview article in the show notes, I had a look at the Trustpilot feedback. Now, I know that everyone on Trustpilot is going to be painting a negative picture. You don't go to Trustpilot to be positive about things. I do understand that, but it's a bit worrying, really, about what they're saying. Wow. Every single Blackview user, have got nothing good to say at all about their experience with Blackview products. Every single one of them. So 1 star or less if they could give it. And there's complaints about absolutely everything.
But then people write their complaints. But whenever you look at the actual reviews, there's 3,397. 89% of those are excellent. And they get an overall score of 3.4 out of 5, which is pretty good. It's just everyone has just gone, nah, it's crap.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, even if you look at the, I don't know, it's just like I'm just concerned about these Chinese makes that firstly don't ever give anyone on any updates, and that's one of the things they're saying about this. And if it's 50 quid for a tablet, fair enough, I suppose. It's good for a year or two at the most, and you don't need any updates probably. But I don't know.
I think if this comes out at about 80 quid or something like that, maybe even pushing up to 100, maybe. You can't really complain that it's not going to have much of of support down the line. If you go into Poundland and pick something up for £1 or £2, as they tend to do, there's even things for £7 in Poundland apparently. But if you buy those things and walk away and they break almost immediately, you don't walk back into Poundland and go, this is ridiculous, I want to see the manager, I want to make a claim on warranty and all that kind of stuff. You just chuck it in the bin and maybe go and get another one. This is something that's going to serve a purpose for maybe 6 months and then be done away with.
Like
it's not designed to last. It's not an iPad.
My Lenovo tablet was abandoned as you take it out of the box. But anyway, you're right. If it's cheap enough, it doesn't really matter. And if you get 1 year out of it, and possibly 2, then, at that kind of price level, maybe that's okay.
Yeah, I do remember seeing once on Argos something along the lines of, I paid $49.99 for this tablet, and it's crap compared to the iPad I used to have. Like, wow, okay. Jeez, they better take that on board and make a better tablet next time around.
Yeah, I do get both sides of that argument, but I just worry when I see such an onslaught of negativity on Trustpilot, and you think, good grief, has anyone got anything positive at all to say about this company?
Yes, but that's the annoying thing, is that 89% of the people who have voted for the company have given it an excellent rating. It's just the 7% who have given it bad have all decided to type in why they think it's bad. No one has typed in why, or none of the 89% have typed
Don't you
in
find
why.
that's enough, though? I sometimes go to Amazon and I look at those statistics and I think, oh yeah, that's got a really good star rating here. And all I got to do is read one negative review and suddenly I'm changing my mind about buying it. Even though it's outnumbered by the positive stuff. It only takes one and I'm out of there.
Yeah, and you frequently go down, you look through all the 5-star reviews, you find that one review that you want to see what's wrong with it, and they say, oh yeah, it arrived late and I had to send it back. So you give them 1 star and you're like, oh well, I'm not buying that then. And I do the same with IMDb when I'm looking at a movie. It's like, should I watch this tonight? I'll just have a look at some of the reviews. And oh, the usherette spilled a Coke over me. Oh, flip, that sounds dreadful. I'm not going to watch that movie.
Anyway, yeah, I'm sure for the right person with the right budget, that'll be a good buy.
Yeah. No, it'll fill a need somewhere. Give it to a child, and they can wreck it if you need.
Or just use it for playing Angry Birds on. It's like instead of going and buying a Nintendo Switch Lite for nearly 200 quid, just buy one of those and play it on there. Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah, true. And instead of the Switch, you could buy the Aya Neo Slide, which is a newly announced prototype from I think it's Aya Neo, is the name of the company. We've touched on these before, and I think we saw an image of this recently.
Rings
but
a bell.
The prototype is out there now, and this is pretty much a bit like a Steam Deck. That's the one we're talking about. Steam Deck, not Stream Deck. Steam Deck. And inside of it is an AMD Ryzen 7 6800U APU with a Radeon 680M iGPU. So it's quite nicely spec'd under the hood. It's designed to run Windows 10 and I think Windows 11, but they usually always run Windows 10 on these things. It's going to be about $500, but the crucial thing between this and the Steam Deck is that this has one of those slidey up screens and a full QWERTY keyboard underneath it. So you can use the keyboard if you need to, if you're looking to... It's not just targeted at games, it has a bit of productivity built into it as well, which would be really quite nice. What do you think of this?
I'll tell you what would be even nicer, and I don't know, this might do that, I can't remember from when we talked about it before, is if when you opened the screen up, it also tilted back towards you. So you could then put this thing on a table and use it in like a little laptop mode. That'd be great. But as I said before about Windows devices on such...
Like a HTC Touch Pro 2.
Yeah, or the HTC Titan, wasn't it? They did that tilting back thing, or more recently, like the Astro Slide. What I've said before about Windows on such a tiny screen, though, is just like how... Yeah, okay, gaming will be fine, and watching videos will be fine if you want to do it on that size of screen, but when you start to try and do anything productive-wise, and you're typing on there, and you're squinting to see what you're typing, and I don't know, I'm not sure that it, in terms of productivity, is much good. But I love the design, I love the layout, and I love having a little keyboard and turning it into a games machine at will. Great. I love the whole thing. And £500, well, $500.
Maybe I was wrong whenever I said productivity. I'm not thinking that you're going to be sitting there using Microsoft Word or anything on this. It is more for the likes of... Steam has their online gaming side of stuff, and you'll be able to send messages to other people. Whereas the Steam Deck, you're going to have trouble doing that. You have to bring up an on-screen keyboard to be able to tap away, and interact with your friends if you don't have keyboard, mouse, and headphones and microphone. You'll be able to give your character name a proper name by typing it in, not having to use the on-screen command. So productivity was the wrong word to use. It's more you can interact better with your gaming setup.
Yeah, but you could argue that let's have it £100 cheaper and I'll use a Bluetooth keyboard. But laying that aside, I love this whole thing where you plug stuff into it all over the place, and it's just great fun and just fascinating to see, miniaturization of stuff, and I'd love to have one of these.
Well, we have a gaggle of these things now, the gaming handheld consoles. 'Cause there's another one as well called the Aokzoe, Aokzoe A1. This is another. It's got the AMD 6800U inside it, handheld PC, and this looks like another cracker of a handheld gaming rig. It's got an 8-inch 1920 by 1200 IPS display, and the choice between Windows 11 and Steam OS. It's got built-in gyro controls, a nicely solid-looking analog stick with triggers, along with a breathing lighting in the console. Well, I don't know what that is, but maybe that comes through in the...
Oh, it's those little windows, bottom left and right, is it? Little red windows. Okay. Yeah. Yes,
there's kind of like a little stylistic flicks on the bottom corner under where your thumbs are going to, or your hands are going to go. This is another cracker. It doesn't have a cost at the moment, but it's another Steam Deck alternative, because they're growing. Obviously the Steam Deck has got so many people going and desiring it, that every company's going to chuck their hat in the ring, and Steam is, no matter what you think now, is going to become probably the most dominant handheld gaming platform out there. Steam games are so much cheaper than anywhere else. Any other company would be mad to take them on right now. Good.
I must rekindle my Steam account at some point to have a go at this, but you're right, they're just coming out left, right and centre, aren't they? Although it's only us that tends to be reporting on them. I never see them particularly mainstream anywhere.
Well, I think a lot of them are going to be vaporware for us here in the UK. You'd have to import them if you want to get them from somewhere, from maybe AliExpress or somewhere like that, and they'll do very well out in Asia. Whereas the people here will tend to go for the dedicated Steam Deck itself. So these are just smaller ones, because the Steam Deck, as you said last week, is huge.
But yeah, this one hasn't got a keyboard of any sort, has it? No,
it doesn't. No, you'll have to rely on the on-screen keyboard, which I think if you are doing a bit of online gaming and out with people, or out traveling on the train or something like that, and maybe are able to pack in a wee online game with someone, you're going to want that slide up screen, because I do think that's going to be a bit of game changer whenever they manage to manufacture that for a lot less, and it'll become second nature to people to want one of these.
Are these screens all LCDs and not OLEDs?
I think they are probably LCDs,
particularly the cheaper ones. Maybe that more expensive one might have been an OLED. I didn't check that.
No, it doesn't say.
No. Okay. Anyway, there you go.
Well, there's one last one as well. The Anbernic, Anbernic, Win 600, which will have Windows 10 or Steam OS compatibility, and it'll cost around $300, which is a good bit less. This has the AMD Athlon 3000E APU with a Radeon RX Vega 3 iGPU and 8 gigabytes of RAM. Actually, the other ones don't actually mention how much RAM is in them, I don't think. But I imagine they're all going to be sitting around 8 gigabytes of RAM. That would be the sensible amount. 16 would be kind of overkill, but easily doable if they wanted to. And it's got a 39 WH battery.
This one looks more like a toy to me. If you look at the picture of it at the top, particularly the back corner, it looks like it's a kind of Fisher Price thingy, whereas the other two looked like they were more serious gear.
Yeah, but there's still going to be a market for this as well, where folks just don't want to have to pay £600 for a Steam Deck, or alternative, a £300 or £200 alternative is going to sell well.
Definitely. Granny
can buy it for the kids on the go, or you might not want to leave your house with your Steam Deck, and you might want this instead to take with you when you go out. Indeedy-doo-dah. All right, well, that about brings us to the end of the hard line for the hardware, and straight into the app. We're going to go to Nintendo, Ted, with Mario Kart Tour for the PC.
Yeah, Mario Kart is a great game. I've played it over the years, and it's a racing game, but it's full of kind of interesting stuff, and it's been coded really beautifully to look $100 million. And it's very, very engaging. And this tour version is the one that you play with all your mates online, of course. Anyway, the news here is that it may be coming to the PC. And it hasn't done that before, at least not officially. It could be coming presumably as part of the whole Android thing, is it? I didn't pick up quite how they're doing it. Or is it not via Steam, obviously? It must be... help me.
I don't see any reference to how it's going to be delivered.
No. Oh yeah, Google Play Games. There you go. So yes, it's through the whole move from Google to get gaming onto PCs, and that'll be really interesting. I might actually get that downloaded on my phone, as we were talking earlier about gaming on phones, because it's such a good game. I could play it on the phone and see how good it is in preparation for playing on my PC.
Yes, and that would also mean that it would probably work through decks as well, so you could play it on the big screen that way too.
Yeah. Yes.
All right. So Mario Kart is one of several Nintendo mobile games that are currently available across smart devices. That also include Fire Emblem, I haven't heard of that. Animal Crossing, I've seen that. My daughter used to love that. But wow, okay. So we're going to see Nintendo invading the PC, but through the Google Play Store.
Looks like
that's
it. And that's going to be initially through the Amazon Play Store, isn't it? But until Google get their act together, because that's how they're going to deliver it, isn't it? Or unless that's changed now.
Well, Sony are doing well with their ports of titles that they're selling on the PC. I think the God of War game that came out did exceptionally well with PC buyers lapping it up. So it makes sense that Nintendo's going to push in that direction as well. It's just a weird way that they're doing that.
Oh, no, yeah, bring it on. I think that if I had Mario games on my PC, on my lovely big monitor in front of me, I'd be much more likely to play them.
Yeah. Well, one thing that I cannot say I've had a horrible time with is the sound on Netflix on my devices over the years, especially whenever you listen to something over headphones. If you've got a good pair of headphones, it's always sounded really nice. I've really enjoyed how people's voices just come across very nicely on Netflix. I think their audio codec is excellent, but it looks like they're going to be doing better with it.
Well,
Ted.
have you tried it on a Blackview £75 phone? That's the question. And do you really think that it's going to be the same? Because this story is about exactly that. What they're saying is that they're going to write in the code into software to make sure that spatial audio works on even the crappiest, cheapest Android device. And you can expect that to be done because of a deal that Netflix has done with Sennheiser, are using their Ambio technology. And they're using, basically software to make this spatial audio effect. A bit like Sony are doing, really, but they're drilling it right down into the software of everything so everyone can benefit, however crap your phone is. So I think it is, you're probably talking about your experience with more expensive devices and not just cheapo crapo.
Right, okay. So this isn't necessarily going to benefit those who do have more expensive devices. It is mainly targeted at the lower end devices that might not be able to deliver a quality experience.
Yeah, I guess so. Although the technology will be across everything. So your expensive Samsung only had like 5% of the way to go, whereas your Blackview £50 had 95% of the way to go, but they'll all end up at the same place.
Wow, so if you buy a Blackview for that amount of money, then you go and pick up a pair of, £5 headphones, you'll be able to get the most amazing sound
through
from
Netflix.
That's incredible. Even though the headphones could be utterly...
Yes, I suppose there is that equation too.
yeah, you do need to spend a bit of money on a decent pair of headphones.
Yeah.
No code can really make a crap pair of headphones sound amazing.
Would be interesting. It would be interesting to see, though, to what actually happens with that, and where it get one before and after with two crappy phones and see what the difference is.
Well, here's a bit of a blast from the past. I thought you were putting this into Harkback initially, because I haven't used Tasker in ages. Actually, since I think the first couple of Android phones to feature it, because it just seemed far too complicated. But Tasker 6.0.9 is now available with thousands of preset tasky routines. Do tell us, Ted, what can we expect to see in here?
The bottom line is I was the same as you. I played with Tasker years ago when we were all fiddling about with the latest HTC and trying to make routines work and all the rest of it. The point is, though, that routines have now been built into phones in different ways with, action blocks and Samsung's routines and all the rest of it, that we've got alternatives. But this release of the tasky thing is all about making it simpler to use, because like you, I just was really I was confused by Tasker. It was just complicated to get your head around and to learn how to use. It felt as though it was out there for nerds and geeks and not for ordinary users. This is Tasker's attempt to make that different, and calling it tasky instead of tasker. And hopefully that it will be more accessible and more interestingly usable for more people. Kurt Kaufman jumped into the group and said that's good news for people who would like to access some of Tasker's functions but don't want to have to deal with what can be a confusing interface. In general, however, I have found it easier to work with Automate so far. We'll put a link in the show notes to Automate, which is another option, which allows you to connect functions in a linear fashion that responds closely to the way I think. I should also mention that while Tasker's main group of core functions are provided for a one-time payment, the developer probably makes a good part of his income selling the add-on functions, which are subscription-based. Automate is free, but to build more complicated routines, a premium license is required for a one-time single fee. Tasker, but not Automate, offers the ability to package functions as independent applications that can be distributed to others. And then we'll put a link in there also to the premium Automate and Llama Lab. So yeah, thank you, Kurt, for that feedback in the group. And yeah, anything that can be done to make Tasker simpler to use, I'm up for. And I will have a look at this when this is. In fact, I think it's available now, isn't it? So I'll have a look at it shortly.
It is. Whilst you were blathering on there, I went and installed it, and I'm just having a quick look at it now, and it looks really quite good.
Good.
Yeah. It's. I suppose it's a bit like if this then that. But this is the interface that you and I have probably been looking for, because the whole back end of it was just far too complex and complicated. So, like with if this then that, you can go and have a look at their pre-made collections of tasks that can be done across social networks and things like that, and bits of housing material and stuff. Bits of sorry, I'm enjoying looking at it here, going, wow, there's loads of stuff here. Assistants and all that kind of stuff that you can embed into everything that's going on in your life. So, I'll spend some time on it this afternoon and see if there's anything that can really liven our lives up. And then report back in 3 weeks' time.
The trick is, and what they've got onto really, is that it needs to be presented in a simpler way, in the same way as action blocks are and Samsung's routines are and all the rest of it, and the Apple one as well. And if they've achieved that, then I think that they will get more users. So they're quite smart, I think.
Yeah. Well, it's not the prettiest, I have to say. It's very grey. Yeah, but it's a fine start. I'm all behind them. I will start using them. Thank you, Tasky people. Well done. Good news. Top notch.
We were talking about ads earlier, full page ads. I was quite excited to see this extension to Samsung's Edge Lighting come along. It's a thing called Edge Lighting Infinity, and it's been developed by some third party guy, and it's in the Play Store. It's not just in the Samsung store. It's in the Play Store, quite open. Anyway, I installed this, and it's just so annoying. It's interesting to have extended the options for the Edge lighting in Samsung, but the cost of it is every time you blooming well do anything, there's a full page advert in the way that you've got to swipe away. There's no way of buying the application that I can see. That you're just in order to use it, you just got to put up with all the advertising all over it. Very, very annoying. I was going to kind of rave about how good it was, but then I changed my mind. So, if you're listening, dear developer, please put a couple of quid to buy this thing in and take away that stupid full page advert.
That sounds totally obnoxious. Wow. Why would you do that? That's just killing your app. People are going to uninstall it straight away.
Which is exactly what I did.
Yeah. There you go. Anyway, another app that's getting a wee bit of an update is, well, it's a newer version of an old app, is the new Microsoft Light app that promises to be lighter and faster for getting your email, because Outlook on Android is a bit of a slog and it doesn't work very well, and I moved away from it a long time ago. But I could give a go at this to see if it's any better. Ted, have you had a chance to try this?
No, I haven't. and I don't particularly use Microsoft products for PIM, but you're right. It's a bit like the Skype Lite. I don't know if you've played with that, but that's another Microsoft product now, obviously. And the Skype Lite is so much lighter than the proper Skype, and the proper Skype is just really, really kludgy and just resource hog and all the rest of it. And the light version of that is much, much better. There's also Facebook Lite as well, which is the same thing. So if Outlook is kludgy as you're describing it, then this would be great. Slim it down and make it much more accessible. Presumably the payoff will be less features, but probably most people don't use all of them anyway.
Very true, very true. And eventually they'll start moving the features that are in regular Outlook into the light version, and by the time they're finished, they'll have to do a new light version to get away from the big kludgy version of light that they
the light version.
Well, yeah, it's essentially what they do, isn't it, with dishwashing powder, isn't it? They take away ingredients to make it over time wash your dishes worse, and then bring out a whole new thing that has all the ingredients back in again. That they go, wow, it washes dishes 10 times better than before.
Indeed.
So do that with apps. Yeah. All right. That's all the app stuff that we have this week. There's nothing really too exciting there, folks. But Ted, you're going to tell us what's new and exciting in the world.
I'm not sure if it's exciting. It's quite routine, really. The first item was about Chromebooks getting a dedicated game mode for Android games too. Now, you'll probably know more about this than I do, but if you drill down into this, I think what they're saying, it seems to be all about opening up. When you open up in game mode, at the moment, some of the game facilities on Chromebooks will open up full screen, but Android games don't. And they're talking about introducing this game mode, which again they've seen in coding forthcoming versions of Chromebook or the Chrome OS. That is going to allow games to open up and not have to then open a window, then open up the window as a second stage. And the other item this week was that Google is testing battery conserving for Chrome OS as well, Chromebooks particularly. And this is all about, now, again, you'll probably be more tuned into this than I do, but it seems to be all about JavaScript and stuff running in the background, intensive throttling of JavaScript, which is making things stay awake, and they're trying to put things to sleep in the background in order to make sure that the batteries on Chromebooks last longer. So, yeah, not very exciting this week, I'm afraid, but any of those two interest you?
I am kind of interested by the gaming side of things, because it's something that always bothered me, that Chromebooks would have that issue. And this is one of the reasons why I do game more so on Android than Chrome. But I think it was Samsung Dex had that option where you would be able to, you'd open it and then tell Dex to open this in full screen from now on, and it would give you a better gaming experience than you would get on Chrome. So hopefully it's something similar to that, that Chromebooks will be able to control. I hate doing things automatically, and Windows tends to do that whenever you try to run a game, and maybe it's an older game that doesn't run quite as well with your native resolution, and it tries to do things itself, and you can end up in a bit of a mess trying to get it to go to full screen or back to Windows mode or something, or you can't even access it, or you lose it altogether and it's disappeared somewhere. Allow the user to be able to decide where it goes. Some games work incredibly well in a window, and it's actually really good to play a game on a laptop or a Chromebook in a window. So we need to be able to have the option. Choice. Yeah. Well, choice would be the correct word to use, because it didn't spring to mind whenever I was blethering on there.
We like options and choice.
Yes, quite right.
Anyway, so not a very exciting week in Chrome OS this week, so I was scraping the barrel there. No,
I think each of them is still an important step forward in the evolution of Chrome, as always. All right, this week in Hark Back, I was talking about Android tablets, and I've been looking at Android tablets, and I started thinking about where I actually really became to love Android tablets, and what one of my first Android tablets was that I enjoyed the most. Now, I think the first tablet that I actually bought was the Samsung Galaxy Tab. Yes, which I still have, and I feature in the background of all my videos that I tend to put out on YouTube. With the keyboard dock that came with it, or that I bought sometime after, which was ridiculously expensive and totally unportable, really. But one of the tablets that really just had everything that I wanted, and I think most people wanted, and it became like hen's teeth to find, was the Advent Vega. Now, this was an Android-based tablet, obviously, that ran the early version of Android, the first one that they put into the tablets, which was Froyo version 2.2, way back in the heyday. It wasn't particularly well built. It felt quite flimsy. I think you could bend it quite easily. But I think it was really about £250 or something to buy it new. It had a CPU inside of it that was, you'll be relieved to hear it had a CPU inside of it, that was 1 gigahertz, and it was a dual core. Just as I was mentioning, the Flyer came out with a 1.5 gigahertz single core. This one had a dual core and 512 megabytes of RAM, which is insane to think of. It had a 4 gigabyte micro SD card slot, and it had an internal storage of 512 megabytes for installing all your apps that were, tiny back then. You didn't get Facebook occupying a couple of gigs on a device. It was just a tiny little web portal to be able to see what was on the Facebook website. It had a really plastic body, and they say it weighed about 700 grams, which is quite all right. But the Cortex that was in there, the CPU, it was the NVIDIA Tegra, and that's one that we're still seeing today, powering devices all over the show. But obviously they've increased it, but the Tegra brand is still there. I really liked it. It had a really good screen with. At the time, I thought it had a really good screen. I do remember playing with it, and the viewing angles were a wee bit ropey. And I bought it from a guy through eBay that lived here in my hometown. And then when I sold it on eBay, I sold it to a guy who lived here in my hometown. And I took it round to his house and gave it to him when I sold it, because I got to meet these two guys who wanted this tablet, which was quite strange that they were both based in this town as opposed to anywhere else in the UK. It was bizarre. But I stopped using it because the Galaxy Tab was I was starting to find it a bit more practical, and this was quite unwieldy to take with me into work and stuff like that and use on the train, because 10 inches back then felt huge. Now we take it for granted entirely, but it was great. This superseded took over my media player usage entirely before I really settled with the Galaxy Tab, and it got me away from the Arcoses that I'd known and loved, and it was just so much cheaper than an Arcos, and you could also play games on it, and it wouldn't fall over every 5 minutes, and it had email and all the Google marketing, or the Google Office suite and things on there. It was great. Having a look into it now, I see that there was a huge amount of support for it, and it was given Android Marketplace, which it was at the time, and even got up to Android 4.1.1 on there via custom ROMs and things that were developed over at Modico. It had access to the Arcos Apps Lib, which was quite a popular app store at the time as well, where you could get you get various free things through that, and then stuff that wasn't in the Android market could be in the Apps Lib as well, which was really quite useful. I liked it. It wasn't the greatest tablet in the world. It was kind of a cheap alternative that just packed in a load of features that people wanted. Did you ever have one?
I've never heard of it. And I'm really surprised that I've never heard of it, because it sounds like it's just the kind of thing that I'd be homed in on. I guess that for me at that time, I probably just wasn't tuned into tablets for some reason. I do remember the Arcos and playing about with those and kind of thinking about buying one and not quite getting there. I'm looking at a picture of the Advent Vega, which seems to have been a brand of Dixon's.
Well, yeah, Dixon's took the exclusivity deal on it, and they were flogging it.
But the thing I was going to say was that on the side of it seems to have a full-size HDMI port and also a USB-A port. Did you mention that? But you can plug in. You know, it was kind of expandable. Apart from the micro SD for storage, you've got other options going on there as well, which you never see now on. You know, we haven't seen that. Well, I can't remember seeing that for a long, long time.
Yeah. I'm doing the same as you. I'm having a look through some of the images on Google Images, and I honestly, despite I didn't have the device for that long, I don't think. I don't really remember it that well from the sides and stuff. I do remember the little rubber feet that were in the corners, because they didn't. If you set it down, the feet wouldn't actually touch the table. And then there were those quirky speakers that weren't rectangles. They had a curved corner to one of them, right, or one of the corners. But yeah, you're right. It did have. Looking at another picture, there was an indent where you could put in there was a modem built into one variant, or they had plans to put one in, and there was a sealed area where you might be able to open it up to put in a SIM card one day, but I don't think that ever arrived. But yeah, it had that drop down panel at the side with the USB-A on it, which was a big. It's a nice shape,
isn't it? It kind of falls away at the back on the edges. It's kind of nicely rounded. A bit like a Amazon Fire tablet in a sense.
Yeah, but it was quite cheap and plasticky, which was just one of its downfalls. But then they had to do that in order to get it down to that price, and it was just sold through Dixon's. I was having a look there on the Wikipedia. It says that it was released on the 19th of November 2010, so it's 12 years old. This tablet. Wow, I do wonder if any are still out there.
I'm trying to... The Advent name, when I looked at the logo on the back of this thing, it kind of rang a bell. Did Advent make anything else?
I don't think so. I don't remember them making anything else. It wasn't a name that I was familiar with.
Oh, yeah.
And even if the manufacturer on Wikipedia doesn't actually have Advent don't have a page themselves. It was sold in Turkey under the name of Expert EasyPad, and then in the Netherlands it was called the Mobi 10.1 MOBII.
Dixon's would have done this over the years, though. Do you remember the brand Chinon, which they made some, and also the Genesis camera, and they were.
And Matsui.
Yeah,
as well,
that's right. They had these exclusive deals with these Japanese firms, didn't they? And or Far East firms. And Advent presumably was one of them. Yeah.
Well, I have a TV in my bedroom that I got from Dixon's on sale, and it's called a Sandstrom. And I was talking to the person in Dixon's when I was buying it, and I said, I've never heard of Sandstrom before. And he said, look, this is what Sandstrom are. Whenever we have Sandstrom? It's like Samsung. If we have a defective Samsung, we can send it out to this company, and they will rebrand it, and test all of the bits and pieces inside it, and then fix whatever needs to be fixed, and send it back, and we repackage it as Sandstrom and sell it as a discount. And it's like, wow, so this is a second-hand TV? And he goes, no, it is. It's first-hand because we've replaced parts of it. And we can get away with that. And I was like, this doesn't sound very, very reliable, or it sounds a bit too dodgy for my liking. But it's a good TV, and it still worked, and it's got a great screen. And I think it's probably about £1,000 Samsung TV that I got for about £300.
The word on the street, I remember when you mentioned Matsui, it reminded me of the word on the street was that Matsui stuff was all actually Hitachi stuff, rebadged. A bit like Amazon alkaline batteries being all Duracells rebadged. You get these kind of stories that fly around, and half of which are probably not true, but yeah, interesting.
Well, that's Samsung TV. I've had it for about 10 years now. I had a Matsui when I guess you could say past my GCSEs. My mother bought me a Matsui hi-fi system for my bedroom, and that lasted me for, about 15 years. And it kept going. I don't know where it is now, actually. I must have chucked it at some stage, or perhaps my brother did. He liked to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
There's
So the Advent Vega, there you go, folks. If you had one, do let us know. Or if you still got one, let us know.
That's another hark back one day. Matsui.
It is, yeah. Yeah, true. But with those Android tablets back, and I was so excited about them. And there was so many of them coming in. I still have my Toshiba Excite over there. I never got rid of that. And then there was a Huawei, I think it was called the S7, which is the best quality tablet I've ever held. I'll see if I can find it. Huawei S7 tablet. Because it had this metal stand around the back of it. Yeah, it was the S7 tablet. That was really good quality. I loved that tablet. And they asked for it back, and I cried to give it back. It was just before the Nexus 7
I remember
came out.
that. Yeah, I'm looking at a picture of it myself now as well, with that stand on the back. I think I do, yeah. Don't think I had one.
Yeah, you could pick it up like a handbag or something like that.
Very nice.
But it was all metal. And good quality stuff.
I think that
making
around this time you were more tuned into tablets, and probably still are now, than I was. I think I was more, my head was just stuck into phones rather than tablets. So, yeah.
Yeah, that was a fun time, those tablets back then, and Arcos constantly releasing their internet tables instead of internet tablets. They made typos on the actual thing. But yeah, Advent Vega. It was a good tablet, and I wish I hadn't got rid of it, but I did for whatever reason. I was probably putting the money towards something else. Okay, the bargain basement. What have we got? It's me who's starting this, Tim, actually. I have discovered on Amazon they are selling the Garmin Fenix 6 Pro. This is a multi-sport GPS watch that features mapping, music, grade adjustant pace monitoring, pulse ox sensors, and it comes in black and black. It's because black watch face and black strap. It's reduced in price from £600 down to £309, or you can pick it up for 5 monthly payments for £61 and 80p. I've seen some reviews of these online. They're quite good. I know my wife has a Garmin watch that she continues to wear it every day, but I think it's utterly god awful because it crashes more often than not. And it lights up during the night randomly and crashes during the night. But this Fenix one is their good brand that I think they've put a level of effort into, and garnered some pretty good reviews.
It looks industrial. Are all Garmin watches like that? You see those screws on the front that obviously take the front plate off or something? Can you? I don't know.
Yeah, well, I think that's sort of ruggedness for someone who's off mountaineering and stuff like that, I suppose, because it can do all those sorts of things. But hers is more of a prettiness thing, and it doesn't have any of those screws. It's she didn't care about features; she just thought it looked nice on the wrist. Doesn't work, but
that's almost half price, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Well worth it. What do you got?
My first one is a Soundcore pair of Anchor Life Note 3S True wireless earbuds, which are 43% off, not quite half price, and they're now $39.99. And these tend to, well, as with most Soundcore stuff, Anchor stuff, they do tend to review pretty well. And they're not, even though they're kind of sit in your earbuds, they're not down your ear canal ones. They're more like the old AirPods, and they sit on the edge of your ear, but they're also very dinky, and they've got quite a good playtime, 5 hours playtime on a single charge, with 35 hours in total if you use the power of the case and what have you. Anyway, yeah, they were $69.99 and now they're $39.99, and they look as though, I've not tried them out myself, but they look as though they're really nice and might be worth a look.
Absolutely, and their app is excellent. Yeah. The Soundcore app is one that you want to have on your phone when you're using headphones. Very good. Next up is the Roku Express. Now, according to Amazon, I've bought this twice already. I've just remembered where one of them is. I don't know where the other one is. Oh, I gave my mum one. She likes it. Yes. The Roku Express has been dropped in price from £30 down to £25 and 15p. This is a great device for the money. It's not as fast or as slick as some of the later ones, and it doesn't feature some of the things like the wireless audio and stuff. But for £25, it's perfect for a guest room TV or something like that, or even taking with you when you go on holiday to be able to stream a wee bit of movie goodness wherever you happen to go. It features on this price every now and again, because it's just pretty much standard that it's £30, but they do drop it down to £25 every once in a while, and that's pretty much what I bought it for before. And if you want one of these, now's the time.
Very good. Okay, and now it's time for a round of Pixel pricing dropping on Amazon and on the Google Play Store. Pixel 6 is $449 at the moment. We saw that recently at $499, but not $449. They're obviously getting ready for the Pixel 6a arriving and the Pixel 7 arriving, so they're trying to get rid of these, I suppose. So yeah, the 6 for $449, the 6 Pro for $649, and if you want the higher storage 256GB version of the 6 Pro, that's $749, which is reductions all round. So we'll put links out to those ones. $449 for a Pixel 6 is actually quite tempting, particularly when you consider that the 6a is going to arrive at $399, only £50 less, and you've got Qi charging with this and an all-round better specified phone. That's a real bargain, I think.
Yeah. I'm seeing that the 6 Pro for 128 is £54.09 per month for 12 months. And then the 256 version is £62.42 per month for 12 months.
Right.
Ain't bad. And you can get it with buds too.
Very good.
But that puts it up a bit more. I wouldn't bother with that. Very nice, very nice. Synology, a NAS. Everybody loves a NAS, don't they? Yes. A Synology DS220J 2-bay desktop NAS is on sale now. It's dropped in price from £180 down to £153 and 97p. What this is essentially, it's called a network attached storage, if you don't know. If you do know, excuse me, I'm just going to try and do this. You stick 2 hard drives into it, and it either combines them together or backs one up to the other and allows you to access them through various network-infused ways. Synology are well known for their software side of things. So this runs a type of software on it that they have developed. I think it's called Synology OS or something like that has apps and functions and third-party applications that can be used in conjunction with it. It really is a full ecosystem that is really attractive, and if you want to get on board with it, this might be the best way to have a try. Most people, I think, whenever they go for NAS, would probably prefer a Ford hard disk toaster type of idea, but this Duo will be able to take 2 hard disks, and then you could run them in RAID 0 or RAID 1, whichever way you fancy, and back one up or have double the amount of storage with 2 hard disks in there. Very nice. I'm quite tempted by that, but I do think I want to hold out and get a 4-bay NAS one day.
Wow, serious shit that is, isn't it? Blimey. I think Ian Barton's into all this NAS thing. I've never dabbled with it or played with it or whatever. I'd have to read up all about it to get involved. But very good. And that's £154, is it? Yeah, very good. My last one is the Razer Siren. They obviously can't flog these in pink. So
I wonder why.
This is virtually half price. from 111 quid to 57. But it's a really nice looking microphone. And if you or anyone in your life wants a microphone in pink, a nice USB condenser microphone, that these review really well. This is the Siren X, not the ordinary Siren. And yeah, it's a good reduction at the moment. I quite like it in pink, actually. I wouldn't mind a pink microphone. It'd be good fun.
Yeah, I suppose you could actually paint it yourself as well, just to get yourself a wee bargain. You could put some primer on there or poster paint. It does look good in black, though, because the wee button on it, it glows. The microphone mute button, I think it is, under the volume knob, glows. It doesn't look quite so obvious on the pink one, but it does on the black.
Yeah. I think you're right, probably. But yeah, the pink one is the cheap one. The black one and the other colours are all just more. But yeah, as usual, Razer stuff, good stuff.
Yeah, and they have a whole suite. There's headphones, mice, and keyboards that all match this type of pink. So if you're into your pink accessories, then this might be the way. I like the pink.
I think it looks really nice. It looks really attractive and smart. I know pink has connotations associated with it, with little girls and all that, and My Little Pony. But actually, I think it's a nice colour.
My Little Pony. Okay. Right. Okay. Well, yes. Razer does look quite good. The last one actually we have, which I don't have a link to because you have to buy it through the Xiaomi Store app that you download to your phone, is the oft mentioned on this show, the Xiaomi Pad 5. This is the 6GB version with 128GB of storage. It's an 11-inch WQHD plus screen with a 120Hz display, which is the killer feature of this tablet. An 8,720 milliampere battery, plus a free set of Xiaomi earbuds, the 3T Pro, with built-in active noise cancellation, is £269 on the Xiaomi app using a code that I have forgotten.
That's usually, I think it's 279. Sorry, 379 normally, isn't it?
329 for the 128 gig. Yeah, because I almost went for it when I was selecting either the Xiaomi or the Lenovo, but I was prepared to do without the 120 hertz so that I could have the SD card, and it was significantly cheaper.
Very good. So you can't. So you've got to use an app on a phone or a device or whatever. You can't get it any other way, not on the web. Right.
I don't believe so. No. And you and I had trouble with the web and signing into it and getting codes through,
isn't it?
But I think so. But we eventually got through to it, and I don't think I'm currently looking for the code that you have to use, but I don't think it actually worked on the website.
Okay.
Maybe it did, but I can't remember.
Well, Pete, our listeners will have to be inventive and research and get dug in there and work it out for themselves.
Well, I'm going to tell you the code now as well, which is HUKD30, which I believe comes from Hot UK Deals 30, and that gets you 30 quid off. And I'll leave that in the show notes if you are fancying a Xiaomi Pad 5, because the Xiaomi Pad 6 could be arriving any day now.
30 quid off if it's normally 329. It must be 50 quid off, surely. No. Yeah, 50 quid off. No.
Okay, so it works out. It's 269. Then using the Hot UK Deals. Oh, right. Okay, so there's two codes. There's a Hot UKD 25, which gets you £25 off using, plus an additional £5 off for using the app.
Okay.
And then you can use the Hot UK Deals 30 to get £30 off.
That makes more sense, yeah.
So the person shows their subtotal of 329 plus discount of £35, and then the coupon for £25.
That would make more sense.
Stick both of them in there, and someone can go and Gareth Williams, you can go and buy one and let us know if it worked.
Indeed. In the meantime, you'll play with your Lenovo.
Yes, I will. I'm quite happy with it. It's everything I wanted. £209. Grand. I don't know if it's still at that price. I haven't checked. It might be. But we featured a couple of weeks ago, so it's not fair to redo the same one over and over again, like Ted likes to do with Realme devices. Okay, so yes, we will be back next week. We'll be back in 3 weeks. We're going to take 2 weeks off.
We're all going on a summer holiday.
Yes, and I can't wait to put my feet up and just relax, because the last 3 years have been hectic, and this is my first time away.
Isn't that sweet?
Yeah. Yes, and already there's doom and gloom with the potential that I could be asked to cancel it. Oh, don't get me into that, but there's a possibility that I could be asked to cancel, for which my reply will be something similar to what Ted would say on the show with FU.
Oh, well, I hope that doesn't happen. You need this. You do. There's only so much barbecuing you can get away with. You need to get away.
And I can't wait. But have a lovely time without us. I hope you guys go and find something fun to listen to while we're away. And then we'll be back on the 31st with another rip-roaring, exciting trip down Tech Avenue with the Tech Addicts Podcast. Take care now.
We haven't done we didn't do all the plugs.
Oh shit! Yeah, I'll put those in then. I'll just leave this in because it just reminds people how crap I am at doing this, despite all these fucking years doing it. Right, okay. So if you want to get in touch with us, where do you? Yeah, there we go. I can't even remember what they are. Gareth at techaddicts.uk, and there's Twitter as well, which is at techaddictsuk. You can also find me on Twitter too at Gareth Miles, GarethMyles, and I have my .com as well, which is spelt the same way as my name with .com at the end. And Ted, where can they find
me? And all the audio podcasts that will continue in the next 2 weeks can be accessed via PodHub UK or tedsalmon.com. Links in there to all the audio podcasts, all the MeWe groups as well. So do join us in the MeWe group. We'd love to hear what tech stuff you're playing with, and we can bring the highlights of that to shows. If you want to buy me a coffee, you can do that. PayPal.me/TedSalmon, and I'll be forever grateful.
Forever. You heard it here first. All right. For the second time of the show, take care. We'll speak to you in 3 weeks. Bye.
Bye.